Hey guys, it's your boy M.K.S here, back in another video. I thought it's so itchy. I'm finally back at you with another video. I'm just gonna check if I'm live on Facebook, which I am. I'm way behind schedule, but admit it's already almost 11:30 here, and I was hoping to get around to this at least by about maybe 8, or at least by 9 or 10 o'clock or whatever. But um, for some reason, I think I like doing part two at either 8 or 10 o'clock. I don't know why, but I suppose thinking about equal numbers and massively patterns. But anyway, I'm probably going off tangents as usual. But um, I think there's anything else I was going to say in the intro before making this video or starting this video. Well, I haven't made it yet, but I know I'm in the process of it now. But what was I going to say is I was really irritable. I'm not sure why. I did mention that. I wonder if I do have ADHD sometimes because I know I get bored very easily. I mentioned that before in previous videos. And I saw a video actually just now about people collecting so many notebooks with different ideas and all that. And that's something I do. My mum got rid of loads of them because I collected so many, which I kind of understand. As much as it hurt, it broke my heart when she got rid of them. Poor soppy little me, I guess. But yeah, I thought that was just something I do. But I have this really mad mental health problem personally. I don't want to talk too much about myself. I want to talk more about A.D.H.D.ers. But yeah, I'll probably talk about my madness about trying to collect so many notebooks and wanting to have notebooks pretty much everywhere, almost literally, and knowing how mad it is and how people will be able to move, but not just in my own room or in my own house, but everywhere. But I suppose my solution to that is only to have what I have permission to have when and where I do, and having like creative rooms. But anyway, hopefully I can create productive work. And talking of which, these are pointers number 11 to 20. I'm hoping to get around to part 3 and 4 tonight if I can. So here goes. Without further ado, let's make sure you. Anyway, number 11. I often talk about changing perceptions, and I love to change perceptions of ADHD, but also I'd love to talk about how can. I suppose I was thinking for this video and maybe for these series videos, I'll probably ask quite a lot of questions and a bit rather than offering solutions. But I suppose changing an approach of how to treat people with ADHD and related or similar conditions or whatever. But also, I wonder how people with ADHD can be supported to have how society can support people with ADHD and what's a way we could change we as a society and a world maybe even can change the experience of people with ADHD in the workplace and in the world of work and help ADHDers to have productive work that they enjoy. I say I'm not being diagnosed with ADHD, so I will say they would enjoy or they could enjoy. Me personally, I would love for people with ADHD, autism, and any related conditions. I mentioned in the past recently that I'm focusing on the ones that begin with A. I think it's April. So yeah, one more day pretty much of April left. Already. Time goes by so quick. Sorry, but me personally, I'd love for atypical or neurodivergent people, if you like people with ADHD, autism, and cerebral related conditions, to network together and create like a social enterprise and invest together. So maybe ADHDers can work on investments, uh, inventions, entrepreneurship, networking together, forming support groups together, um, and finding meaningful, productive works, like even in business or a business that they can enjoy and hopefully I'll be part of those networks with atypical people, or again neurodivergent people. But yeah, I'd love to know people's suggestions or solutions. So yeah, or I was also thinking, like, how can we get ADHDers to avoid getting into crime, avoid getting into trouble, and avoid being unproductive or whatever. Again, doing productive works. I suppose I'm thinking of, even though I'm not that religious, I often quote like biblical quotes that I've read or heard along the way. I believe in going out paranoid rather than hope, as I often say. But I think of things like the devil makes work. Sorry, the devil makes work for those with idle thumbs. So to keep out of trouble, there's things that ADHDers and others could get involved in. So like playing sports, being involved in business, finding a business that perhaps they could enjoy, and atypical people could enjoy. Again, maybe make an investment fun. I suppose I normally think of YouTube and TikTok on Tuesdays and Thursdays respectively, but it could be that could be a pathway to work. I'm thinking of words with W because it's Wednesday, so works and that kind of thing. Work, the world of work. I said work too many times. I'm going to move on that note to point number 12. So again, productive works, and I guess a work that is fun, which doesn't feel like hard work. I've seen an advert a while back. I know I've mentioned this in the past, but my infamous line. But where Mo Farah, the Olympian, I think, or the marathon runner, I think it's the Olympics. But anyway, the marathon runner, Mo Farah, or the former marathon runner, was in an advert. And he said, when healthy eating feels healthy, when healthy eating is tasty, when healthy food is tasty, it doesn't feel like healthy eating. And I think that could be the same with work. I say I love to work smart and do what I enjoy, and I'm sure many people with ADHD would feel the same way as well. I'm sure maybe most people feel that way, although sometimes you've got to do what you don't want to do. So that's why I believe life can never be 100% free. But yeah, the price of being alive is to lose something of freedom. Yes, not a very cheery thought. Sorry, I do try and be positive, but talking of being positive, like how can ADHDers, as I say, mentor each other, network together, and things like that? No, I'm trying to think what was it, W, and I mentioned mentorship on Mondays, but on Monday, but yeah, networking together, having each other's back, and that, I think helping each other when things get tough, being a support network for each other, basically encouraging each other, showing what they can achieve. Again, playing football and other sports could keep people out of trouble. I'd especially love to see what A.D.H.D.ers, as I mentioned before, could contribute to Italian football and Celtic, and even Leicester. As someone who grew up there, and the fact that it's diverse and that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm just trying to remember if there's something else I can say as well. But yeah, if you do stuff that you enjoy, like I often say, like I often think I would love to never have to work. In other words, I would like if I sat down all day, I slept all day. Believe it or not, as lazy as I am, I'd feel really bored. But I do love walking, for instance. I would love to play football if I was more fit again. I do love the tactical side of football. I also love playing football. In some ways, I prefer to play it than watch it, but I'd also love to get involved in strategies and my own thoughts on what could make a great team and that kind of thing, especially for town football and that kind of thing. And although, as I say, I'm a bit out of shape, but sometimes I even enjoy going to the gym now and again. But I find swimming too knackering, too tiring, that kind of thing. But yeah, so I'd love to have that option. Basically, is what I'm supposed to say. Is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, what I'm saying. I suppose I would love to have that option of doing things. So to me, that doesn't feel like work, but it's being active or productive. And I love to help people, but I love to do and animals and that kind of thing. But I love to do use my mind and that kind of thing. I'm not very good with my hands, but I'd love to use my mind to come up with ideas and things like that. But I'm going to move on to point number 13, as I'm behind schedule. And I think of like, as like words and W in this case, a negative one is like weaknesses. Weaknesses that people with ADHD have and struggle face. Maybe we could share some of those and some of the more negative sides and experiences as well. I know I want to read about and hear more positive stuff, but there is some room for negative things, because then I guess if you address those issues, address those troubles and problems, then I guess you can take them on, and that could be challenged with like work, getting jobs, keeping jobs, finding meaningful work, being frustrated, being bored, getting involved in allowed to get involved in trouble, crime, things like that. And that kind of thing. But also, I normally think of, as well as like scary and negative things, I also think of like my selfish dream for ADHDers in this case to benefit Italian football teams generally. Not whether that's Milan, Roma, Torino, or any other Italian teams, even the rival teams, to make Italian football better at club and country level, with different ideas and that kind of thing. And I talk about like ADHDers in Italy itself being encouraged to play football and that kind of thing. Number 14, I mentioned like if you address some of the negatives, you can actually take them on, take on those challenges. So I don't know, restlessness or whatever, or struggling to find a meaning in doing things or whatever, meaningful work, struggling to keep jobs, stay out of trouble, stay productive, as I say, do productive works, or not get frustrated, and things like that. Again, by doing productive works, they can be less frustrated, I'm sure. And that's something I struggle with. Like if I don't feel productive or I don't feel a purpose in doing things, that's one of the reasons why I hold things, because I always think that if I write things, actually want to make videos or whatever. My brother wants to help me, and my brother's because, well, a few times, but one of them is because, like he says, even if Michael writes a line and then it gets torn or taken away, he gets frustrated. But I think that if I write it again, it might not be the same or whatever. I have these strange sort of things I know personally. Again, I'm not trying to talk too much about myself. I'm trying to talk more about A.D.H.D.ers. But yeah, I like to keep things because I like to have a record of things and hopefully get those things to make a genuine difference. And basically to be more productive with my ideas and put them into action. Basically that kind of thing. And I'm sure people with ADHD and others will feel the same. Of course, as I say, I'm trying to focus more on ADHDers. Number 15, I guess I'm just sharing ideas from a point of ignorance, but it'd be great, as I say, for ADHDers on that note to get involved in the comments, and family members and whatnot. And I guess the main thing I want to do is like try and empower ADHDers to find, as I say, meaningful work that they enjoy, stay out of trouble. Always I always encourage like sticking to the law and things like that. I think such a network should be supported by governments and things like that, because if you can help ADHDers and people with related conditions, you can cut crime a massive amount, saving governments and countries therefore a heck of a lot of money, and cut crime and problems for people, make society overall better. I mentioned like how I'd love for ADHDers, autistics, and people like that to be tax exempt. Even the more wealthier ones, maybe part of the deal could be that they don't have to pay taxes, but in return, they reinvest that money they save maybe into other ADHDers in this case, and even businesses that are not run by ADHDers or organisations that are not run by ADHDers, associations and whatnot, could get tax cuts and incentives for supporting ADHDers. Again, that would save governments and countries a lot of money by cutting crime and a lot of hassle as well. It could cut a lot of that stuff. But yeah, my goal, I guess, is empowerment in this case in the world of work. Again, not my favourite word, but again, doing like smart work rather than hard work, maybe. I personally prefer that, although I don't know if that's possible all the time, but as often as possible. As they say, sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do, as I said a few minutes ago, or whatever. But moving on, number 16, I'd love to know from other people, what do you think about what are the best ways to empower ADHDs? What are things that people like myself and others could learn, or people generally could learn about ADHDs? What do you think about the idea of like ADHDers to be tax exempt, and also even organisations run by non-ADHDers to be tax exempt, even even typical or neurotypical, if you like, people who don't have atypical or neurodivergent conditions or whatever you call them, as an incentive to support ADHDers. Do you think that could benefit society? Because I guess obviously if they didn't have to pay tax, you could argue that revenue, obviously the idea that people don't pay taxes or whatever, the revenue would not be as much. But if that was going towards helping ADHDers to avoid getting to crime and unemployment and underemployment and that kind of thing, and relying on benefits or whatever it might be, that would save a lot of money. It would probably save more than it costs, hopefully. So, or do you think I'm being naive? I don't know. Do you think it would save more than it costs? I don't know. But moving on, look at the time again. Trying to get to that point, but number 17, it'd be great, as I say, to see if I really use my imagination. It'd be hard to see, but I'd love to see in the future, like no person with ADHD being involved in crime or criminality. Can you just imagine how much money I would say the government? Also, not being on benefits and that kind of thing. That would save the government a lot of money, I would say as well. And being productive members of society, hopefully helping to make the world better for other people, children, animals, and that kind of thing. If I had a choice, I would admit, I don't want to be too hypocritical, but if I try and be as honest as possible on these videos. I always like to obey the law as much as I can, stick within the law, and that kind of thing, even though I like to break rules a little bit. But if it's legislature, I sort of stick with it. I love to see less laws and less rules, but I do try and treat people as I like to be treated as well, and that kind of thing. But I think like if everyone broke the law and just hurt each other and whatever, there were no laws. As much as I don't really like laws and that kind of thing, it does keep us safer. I think a silly example, like if people were playing football in the street or in the park and someone just came and stole their football, probably not the best example, but if you were just the biggest, people just stole people's stuff generally, I guess it would be really bad. But yeah, we could cut a lot of crime, and hopefully I can work together with people who share the same sort of ideals. I think many minds make light work, and I'd say I like light work, easy work, and being a light worker and that kind of thing, as in like making the world a better place, bringing light to the world, that kind of thing, and peace. I forgot to say in point number 12 about how I was trying to remember something, but how can ADHDers be supported and encouraged in poetry, art, writing, and things like that, and that kind of thing. So, or again, in meaningful work that they actually enjoy. Could you just imagine? I think like 17, certain numbers remind me of certain things. So I think 17 being like imaginations, and that kind of thing. Number 18, I hope once again like positive works and that kind of thing, doing positive stuff, working on positive things, and hopefully change the perception of ADHD and showing what ADHD is, what they can achieve, showing to themselves what they can achieve, and to each other. Number 19, I'd love to hear from and support women with ADHD as well, and people from different backgrounds like POC, people of colour, minorities, and whatnot. And number 20, I'd love for developing nations, to host their own summits, events, and conferences to see what work ADHDers can do and how their out of the box thinking and high levels of energy and that kind of thing can contribute to their economies, to help them to grow, especially as I say, emerging market economies, former colonies, and that kind of thing. And on that note, I'm out in peace and love.